people are still coming through. Good to see you, Neil. Yes, so unusually, I am hosting this call because Tom is doing exciting things in Carlisle, which he will tell us about in a minute. But lovely to see everybody, and we have a packed program. We're going to learn about a book exploring why arts is good, basically. I'm sure it's preaching to the choir, but that's going to be fascinating. We're going to hear about Zine Fest in Carlisle, and we're going to hear about My Name is Eden, which is a project that's going to run over the next couple of years, and there's going to be a call out for artists to take part in that. So my name is Chris Bridgman. I'm development producer with CACN. We have our new expanded team: Iona, Stuart, Kate Parry, and Tom, who is our roving reporter today. We are the freelance staff for CACN. Okay, let's get started. Let's go to you, Tom, because I know you may have to go off and do other things. You are in Carlisle at a conference. What is the conference about? Ooh, he's stuck.
I'm in and out of internet, so I hope you can hear me okay. Just put your thumbs up, Chris, if you can hear me okay. Great.
Yeah, that's fine at the moment. Yeah.
Great. So I'm running a workshop at a conference today at the Holston in Carlisle, which is a joint hosted conference between the Solway Firth Partnership and the Solway Coast National Landscape. So the Solway Firth Partnership is the Scottish side of the Solway, and the Solway Coast National Landscape is the English side of the Solway. We all know where the Solway is. It's one of the most beautiful parts of Cumbria. And they get together every couple of years to see whether they can do some stuff in common or not, as the case may be. I think the Solway Firth Partnership on the Scottish side is quite a lot bigger and quite a lot better funded by the Scottish government than the Solway Coast National Landscape on the English side. But hey, fish, whales, seaweed, they don't care whether they're Scottish or English. So they want to get together to see what they can do. So I'm running a little workshop with a colleague from the Scottish side called Art in the Landscape. And I'm basically hosting it. He's doing the kind of clever stuff. And we're probably going to focus on getting people to think about a big arts project that could happen in the next 18 months or so, probably focusing on rubbish and detritus that is washed up on the Solway. I'm hoping that Nick, my colleague Nick from the Scottish side, Nick Coombe, is going to bring a whole load of debris and stuff that has been involved in projects before. They've designed some amazing sculptures on the Scottish side of detritus and litter and rubbish that's been washed up. And there's an ambition, they call it the Ghost Strand Line. There's an ambition that perhaps we can navigate towards something that could be a cross-collaboration exercise and art project, as I say, in the next 18 months or so. And we're going to be encouraging the 50 people that are going to be here in our workshop. I think there's about 200 people here for the whole conference, to think about that and come up with some radical, ambitious ideas. And then we'll go and try and find some funding for them. So that's my role here today. But actually, I love coming to the Solway. I love Bowness on Solway in particular. I've seen the boar that comes down the Solway as well. So I'm actually looking forward to learning loads about the Solway while I'm here.
Yeah, it does. I mean, looking at the agenda for the conference, it does span across. You mentioned there's an arts element to it, but they obviously a lot of nature, wildlife, but also history, archaeology. It's kind of the whole context of the Solway, isn't it?
Very, very much so. I mean, as ever, it's human beings that have put a border down the line between England and Scotland. Nature and history doesn't do it quite so well, or doesn't do it the same way. So, as you say, Chris, there's stuff about the military landscapes, there's stuff about the wilderness, there's stuff about archaeology. Clearly, there's stuff about the nature going on here too. But I think part of the artistic angle of this is to see how art and artists can interpret the Solway and see how that can then help tell the story of what the Solway is about and why it's important to people around here and beyond.
Pete Hunter has just noted that David Strigley has a pile of old rope gathered from around the country in a gallery in London for a price tag of £1 million. So he has made a load of old rope worth £1 million, which seems to be something adjacent to the collector's stuff from the Tide line.
Just one other thing, Chris. We're going to hear from Alistair Moffat, who's a writer and historian that some people may have heard of. He's written over 30 books. He's going to be talking about the Solway as well. I think he might have done some writing about it recently. And he's certainly written a book called Between Britain, Walking the History of England and Scotland. And he's written a book called The Reavers, Raiders of the Borderlands as well, because obviously the Solway was a massively strategically important part of the world as well, and has been fought over many times. So looking forward to that too. But anyway, I shall leave you in peace, and I shall go and mingle with the crowds and try and learn about the Solway.
Excellent. Have a great day, and we look forward to your report about it possibly next week when you're
I'll
back.
tell you all about it. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Tom. Lovely. We're going to go now to Daisy Fancourt, Professor Daisy Fancourt, down south, who is joining us to talk about a book which is not yet published, but is going to be coming out early in the new year. Daisy, if you'd like to come off mute, and I don't know, do you know Cumbria at all? Have you ventured up this far ever?
I literally came back from Cumbria about 72 hours ago. I was up there on holiday with my family. So
Great.
yes, love it. We were staying just near Ambleside, it's in Stylebridge, which was really nice. So yeah, lovely to be speaking. I wish I was still up there with you.
And enjoying the rain, which has now stopped, I'm pleased to say, but yes, it's been very Cumbrian over the last few days. Right, Daisy, you are an internationally renowned academic working in, this is right, psychoneuroimmunology?
That is right, yes.
Which basically means, am I right in saying that's kind of about impacts on health from the kind of social context and from our experiences rather than from germs and physical causes?
Exactly. It's about thinking about how life experiences, psychological experiences, social ones actually affect us biologically. So affecting things like our immune system, our cardiovascular system, and the impact that that has for disease and even longevity.
You're right. And so your new book, which is coming out in January, I think this is right. And here we are. We can have a little preview of the cover. The Science of How the Arts Transform Our Health. So can you briefly tell us how the arts do transform our health?
So for over a decade now, decade and a half, I've been working as a scientist trying to understand this question. So what happens to us and to our health when the arts affect us? And I think many people will speak anecdotally about the benefits that they feel, like improvements in their mood, reductions in their stress. And so many people have got stories of things like a loved one who had dementia, who didn't remember them but could still remember music, or people who've had a stroke and they've actually been able to dance even though they found walking harder. So people who've had these really profound experiences from arts. And what's really exciting is over the last couple of decades, like the science has absolutely exploded on this. So we've got so much data now from neuroimaging studies and neuroscience studies showing what happens to neurotransmitters in the brain and blood flow between different regions of the brain. I've worked a lot on immunology studies, so actually showing what happens to proteins within our immune system and cells within our immune system when we engage in the arts. I've even found recently that people who engage more in the arts are biologically younger than those who don't. They have patterns of gene expression that actually are associated with a slower pace of biological aging. There are lots of studies that have looked at how the arts affect people's psychological needs, like giving them mastery and autonomy and a way of regulating their emotions. Many people talk about the arts as being something that reduces loneliness and provides community and social bonding. There are also so many behavioral studies now that show that when people engage with the arts, it actually increases their likelihood of doing other healthy behaviors, like eating more healthily. For young people, it reduces the risk of getting involved in crime or antisocial behavior, or even taking drugs. So this book essentially tries to bring all of that science together, along with some amazing stories about individuals who've been affected, so that people can really understand more about what this amazing, but I'd argue undervalued behavior of arts engagement actually does to us.
That's amazing. I mean, the arts is kind of quite a broad term. So, I mean, does this apply whether you're going to a gig or making a pot or constructing a collage or watching a film? Are there differences between different kinds of artistic experience?
So the book covers everything, literally going to classical concerts to going to pop concerts, from galleries to graffiti, from like ballet to carnivals. It covers the whole lot. And there's a lot of focus on everyday creativity. So people doing crafts, having creative hobbies that they do, One of the points I make really early on in the book is that we often have these kind of quite strict high art definition of arts that, people will think about the opera and the ballet and the museums. But actually, there are lots of activities that are everyday creativity that we might not always call arts, but actually share the same ingredients. So things like gardening and arranging flowers, that is an artistic and creative activity. It's got almost all the same ingredients as other kinds of crafts. Baking cakes, for example, that's also about beauty and aesthetics and imagination and creativity. And there are also lots of culturally specific activities, things like tattoo art, for example, and beading and weaving. So I cover the whole lot, and actually the literature has covered so many things. I even include things like circus art because there have been quite a lot of scientific studies on those now as well. So it's designed to be very inclusive.
So what are the implications? I mean, I think everybody on this call kind of knows this already, and certainly is very pleased to hear that kind of scientific basis for what our gut instinct is telling us in terms of art being beneficial. But kind of what's the implication of this for government policy, how we organise society?
So I'm seeing two main problems when I look around at society. Only two, which I think is pretty good considering the state of the world. One of them is that actually rates of arts engagement generally are actually very low. We just did a study in the US where we asked adults about any kinds of arts and creative activities and said how many minutes yesterday. And this was part of a massive study that looks at all kind of time use. 95% of US adults say they did no arts or creative activities at all yesterday. And I think, we believe the rates are very similar in the UK. And I think this is concerning because if you ask people if they did exercise yesterday, 40% say yes. And if you say, did you eat your vegetables? 57% say yes. So the fact it's only 5% for arts, I think a lot of this is people not realizing that this is a health behavior. If you want to be healthy and happy and have high well-being, people know that you need to exercise and get your sleep and you need to eat well, but they just don't put arts in that list. And I think what often happens is people think that arts is sort of a luxury if you have enough time, but it's like bottom of the priority list. And I think this is a real problem because it does influence health. And if people want to be doing things to support their health, I feel it's really important that they realize how strong the evidence base is. It's not just a case of people saying it makes them feel nice. It actually has the same biological effect on immune activity with the same sized effect as exercising. And yet we just don't talk about it in the same way. So that's one challenge I'm trying to address, is trying to position arts as the kind of fifth pillar of health alongside diet, exercise, sleep, and nature. But the other challenge I think that many people will be very familiar with is that funding to the arts is just being cut more and more and more. Arts in schools is basically disappearing off curriculum. So many arts venues and libraries are closing. Artists are facing so many challenges with their careers and such precarious working conditions. And I feel like we as society are just not valuing arts in the right way. And in fact, the penultimate chapter of the book is like a rundown on all of the statistics of this and how everything seems to be getting worse on this, but about how it's so counterintuitive. Because I did economic modelling with the UK government last year, and we showed that each year, just for working age adults in the UK alone, the health benefits that society, the health economic benefits that society gets back from people engaging in the arts, just in terms of things like higher well-being, higher productivity, reduced use of the NHS, is the equivalent of £18 billion per year. Like, if we consider arts budgets, they're less than £1 billion, I guess, from government. It's absolutely insane that we ever cut a pound from arts funding. Really, we should be investing in this so much more because it would be reaping these health benefits and health economic benefits. So that's the kind of other pillar. It's about trying to support people to change their own behaviors. And I talk a lot about behavior change and how you can increase your own arts engagements and what the barriers might be and how you can overcome it. But the second thing is about trying to challenge societies and governments about the way that they are valuing and funding the arts.
Yes, people in chat obviously very much endorsing everything you're saying and saying it's great to have this kind of robust scientific evidence to back it up. I think there was a slightly hopeful development this week in terms of the curriculum changes that the government's announcing, which kind of at least slightly gives a little bit more prominence or scope for arts to be present in schools. I don't know if you've got a view on that.
I'm eternally hopeful. But, you know, currently, as I say in the book, the amount of funding per pupil that goes on the arts each year is £7 a year, which is 0.1% of the total funding per pupil to each school. So there would have to be such, like, I feel like we could get quite a bit higher than that, and still not be really infringing on other things. But I feel like if they're really going to be saying that we can have more arts, that needs to be followed through with the funding that actually enables that. And in the last decade, 1 in 7 arts teachers and 1 in 8 music teachers have left the profession. So there's also an issue about making sure we've got the teachers that can be there to provide really lovely quality arts opportunities for young people as well.
I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate slightly for a moment.
Go for it.
From an artist's point of view, one might kind of go, well, this is great, but what I want to be doing is creating beautiful and or challenging and or surprising things. I'm slightly uncomfortable about the idea that it's kind of a medicine that's doled out, that kind of instrumental approach to arts. What would be your response to that?
I actually discussed this debate quite early on in the book, in fact, in the first chapter, because I agree, you don't just want the arts to be a tool of health and only funded because they're trying to achieve a health target or anything. But I do think that the other side of things, we do really want to acknowledge the fact that the arts are inherently beneficial to us. And actually, the fact that they will challenge us and they'll shock us and they'll make us think differently about the world. I have a whole chapter on this and about how critical that is. And it's often arts and artists who've actually caused major paradigm shifts in the way entire societies work. But you still need arts funding in order to have that, in order to have artists who can do all of this. So I think really the book is about celebrating that the arts are inherently valuable, but also trying to acknowledge the fact that there's a spectrum here. Lots of people will engage in the arts just because they enjoy it. But there'll also be some people who've got particular medical needs where they'll think, actually, I could really benefit from the arts in this specific situation with an artist who's got experience in healthcare settings and can sort of help me guide my engagement in a more targeted way.
Yeah. Stuart, if we could stop screen sharing so I can see people, I suspect there may be questions people want to ask. So if you do, please raise your actual or digital hand. Daisy, so where do you go from here? Obviously, there's an immense amount of work has gone into the book, and I'm sure you're very relieved and delighted that it's kind of going to have a going to be appearing physically shortly. But what are you currently engaged in, and where are you going next?
We've got a massive program of work now underway with the World Health Organization and also with UNESCO, which is really exciting. It's the first time that those two massive international bodies have worked together on arts and health policy. So the goal with both of them is over the next few years that we get a formal acknowledgement that the arts have got inherent health benefits, that they are this health behavior like sleep and diet and etc. And the argument of all of this is that if these bodies will formally acknowledge that, then it actually provides greater incentive for governments in individual countries to think more about the ways that they're funding arts and providing opportunities for arts within communities. So that's a kind of big high level thing that we're doing. We've also got loads of research projects underway. We do a lot in social prescribing, and particularly with children and young people, where arts prescribing is a very big part of that. But I'm also just trying to see what we can do around this public awareness as well, because something I'm sure some of you have come across this before is that when you try and talk to people about the health benefits of the arts, there's often this thing about where's the evidence, or we don't have enough evidence. And it's such a cop out because we really do. And we've written so many papers, there are so many papers, and we've even written like technical reports. We wrote a big technical report for the World Health Organization a few years ago. But I still think not everyone is going to want to read a scientific paper or a technical report. So that's why I thought a lay summary book that's got stories, that's really accessible, that makes it relevant to the individual and says what they can be doing in their own lives too. I'm hoping that might be a bit of a game changer in terms of shifting that public perception around the value of the arts.
Splendid. I'm sure we're all ordering it from our bookshops, our beloved local bookshops, shortly. Kate had her hand, Kate Parry, CACN, had her hand up first, and then we'll come to Patricia.
Well, in fact, it's a similar question to the one you just put, Chris. It's just remind me again when the book is published.
It comes out on the 8th of January, but it's actually on a discount sale offer on Amazon at the moment. I've put the link in the chat so you can see the link to the web page. There are different covers for the US and the UK.
Okay.
But yeah, it's already available and it officially comes out on the 8th of January.
Okay, that's lovely, but I will go to my local bookshop and order it from there.
That's
But
fair enough as well.
but I think it just feels like a real moment, and the fact that you've got a book being published such an opportunity, isn't it, to make a noise about this subject. And but you've already spoken a little bit about that. I just feel like, as Peter said in chat, this will be so useful to people, such a useful tool and a weapon almost to go out and wave about in the nicest possible way, you know, to be able to have something that makes these points so clearly is just incredibly helpful. And I just hope that you can take the opportunity to yeah, to just make as much noise about the subject as possible at the moment of publication.
So, Patricia, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Derek.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting, and it's obviously a really important subject. I'm wondering whether your book covers in what way the arts actually help, and what the neuroscience of it is, what actually happens in the brain.
This is a really big thing. I don't just say what happens, but how. I talk about mechanisms all the way through. I've got pictures of the brain, and I talk about the brain, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system. I go through every organ system, showing how the arts affect it, and also what the implications then are. So, you know, if singing, for example, is affecting the strength of your respiratory muscles, I then talk about the clinical trials that have used singing as part of COPD and lung diseases for treatments. And so, yes, mechanisms is my big passion in arts and health research, and it's very much covered. I've noticed a few people in the chat as well asked about things like the work of people like Clive, who I know, Clive Parkinson from Manchester Met, and also some of the work in Gloucestershire. The book actually starts with a case study of a man called Russell, who was part of the early Gloucestershire movement and part of their Arts on Prescription programme. So I expect that some of you will recognise some of the people and stories within this book as well.
Great. And Derek, would you like to come off mute and ask the question?
Yes, I've been thinking about this in connection with education, particularly, and the remnants of the Gove effect, because it seems to me that one of the reasons why the arts have been squeezed in education is that it has apparently been more difficult to provide the evidence to support the idea that this country is the leading light in reading, or whatever it may be. And I think this may be of particular significance in connection with the proposed new curriculum, which would appear to be trying to give more space to the arts and to creativity in general. And it's if there's a way of measuring it, this seems to be something which is dear to the politicians, so they can then boast about the fact of how their policies are making this the best educational system in the entire universe.
And I actually talk about this in the book because one of the reasons that I think we face some challenges with education policy around the arts is that in the sort of 90s and early noughties, there seemed to be a lot of pressure on proving that the arts would improve like maths outcomes and English outcomes. And actually, the studies ended up not being that great. And I'm very honest about where the evidence is strong and where it's not as strong. And actually, the idea that doing music would make you better at maths GCSE didn't actually end up being borne out in the trials. But I find this a problematic argument anyway, because it's not logical that music lessons would make you necessarily complete a subject-specific GCSE better, but also sports lessons wouldn't do that either. But we all understand the importance of having sports in schools for children's health and their social and emotional development. And actually, I think we're much stronger when we make similar arguments for the arts, because actually there is really good evidence on arts engagement in schools, helping to reduce loneliness on set, helping to support mental health in young people, helping to reduce antisocial behaviours and involvement in crimes or substance use. So I think that if we're talking much more about the social emotional benefits, then obviously all of those things are also what is critical to academic outcomes. You're not going to have a child doing well in their exams if they're not mentally and physically well to underpin that. So, and I put also a deliberate provocation in there around what do we actually want to be teaching children in school, and things like creativity and curiosity and compassion, all things that the arts are fundamental to supporting, is actually arguably one of the most important things that we can be teaching, which is another argument for the value of the arts.
You're on mute, Chris.
Sorry, I had the phone going, so silenced myself. Kate Brundrett from Booths, other stores are available, says, could you talk a little bit about Social Biobehavioral Research Group?
Yes, this is the research group that I lead at UCL. So we are a team of 25 scientists, all from different backgrounds. So we've got statisticians, sociologists, biologists, loads of different disciplines in the team, psychologists. And we look at how different social behaviours affect our health. So we look at loneliness, social isolation. We looked a lot at COVID, pandemic. We looked a lot at the effects of restrictions and lockdowns. But our particular passion is solutions focused. So looking at things like arts, culture, nature, social prescribing schemes and the impact that they have. We're a WHO collaborating centre for arts and health, and we're also the National Centre for Social Prescribing Data and Analysis. So we work closely with governments on these different policies. And we do combinations of clinical trials. And we also do a lot of very big data analysis. So we specialise in looking at things called cohort studies, which are very large studies that track thousands of people over years and decades and allow you to look at the long-term effects of everyday behaviours. So we look at the arts a lot through these cohort studies and how they relate to all kinds of mental and physical health outcomes.
That's splendid. I think you may be inundated, but I think there's certainly going to be an invitation to take part in a book festival up this way at some point. I think lots of people on this call would be extremely pleased to have you up here and be able to talk about this more. And I suspect we might call upon you to expand on some of this in some other contexts. We have kind of mini conferences a couple of times a year, and it might be great to have you along to one of those, but that's Tom's province, so I won't get ahead of myself. It's been really splendid talking to you, Daisy. Thank you very much indeed. And do stay for the rest of the call. We're going to talk about some actual art. Congratulations. The book sounds absolutely essential.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid I have to go to a budgetary meeting for a new research grant that we're developing around social prescribing, so I can't stay, but I actually would much rather, because it sounds a lot more interesting. Well, but thank you so much for your time, and it's really lovely to meet you all.
Well, we do these calls every Friday morning, so you'd be very welcome to join any time in the future.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Splendid. So coming down to the specific and local, we're now going to cross to Lindsay, who is at Tullie, and she is heavily involved in Zine Fest, which is coming up, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, I believe. That's right, isn't it, Lindsay?
That's right, yeah. It's Saturday the 22nd of November.
So what is it, and how long has it been going? How did it start?
Yeah, so I'm kind of I work at Tullie. I'm the community engagement producer. So I work on lots of different youth projects and also sort of designing events and programming like with young people and with different community groups. But Zine Fest isn't actually my idea, or it wasn't started by me. Basically, I'm here kind of on behalf of the person who started the Zine Fest. Her name is Jess Autumn. And yeah, so I'm just going to give a bit of a rundown and sort of talk about just introduce zines, just in case some people aren't familiar on the call, but then also just run down sort of how it started, how it's evolved and how it's come to be at Tullie, and sort of what my role is in supporting the Zine Fest to happen, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say, for anybody who might not know, just explain basically what a zine is.
Yeah, it's basically a small magazine that's used to share ideas, it's used to share creativity, and it's basically a super cheap, easy way of sort of sharing ideas with other people, basically. So it's kind of stemmed from the 1930s and 40s with like science fiction zines, and fanzines, and people kind of sharing their kind of love for something and kind of putting that out there. And then it kind of progressed, you know, in the 70s, the sort of DIY and punk movements use zines quite a lot, to again, in really kind of cheap way of sort of getting your voice out there and sharing ideas. And then sort of towards the like 90s and sort of moving on, they're just an amazing tool, because anybody from any age can create a zine, and they can be used to share the simplest ideas, or they can break down really sort of complex ideas. They can engage with really serious topics, and they can be really vital tools for kind of sharing, perhaps, you know, sharing things that you don't see in the mainstream, sort of ideas and experiences that are kind of hidden sometimes, and they really help people connect with each other. So yeah, they're just really, really wonderful, and they've always been a grassroots medium, basically. So, you know, whereas you know, obviously, for example, Stu is a filmmaker, and that's an amazing way to kind of engage with issues and put his art out into the world. But filmmaking's expensive, and maybe people aren't at that stage yet. Whereas a zine, you can pick up a piece of paper from the photocopier or whatever, and kind of scribble ideas together, storyboard, and just be playful and kind of experiment with some ideas in a really cheap way, before you progress them. But it's kind of, yeah, it's used for all of these really great things, and they're really fun to make. So you'll see like quite a lot of events, and I know at Tullie Museum we have a lot of zine making workshops. Sorry, my dog's too excited to see me, he's just got up. Yeah, we have a lot of zine making workshops, yeah, that young people can really express themselves, you know, use lots of sort of recycled materials and sketch and draw and just be playful. So yeah, they're just really, really brilliant.
So if we move on to the next slide.
Yeah, so I've got some nice notes to keep me on track as well.
Okay, so yeah, how long has the Zine Fest been running?
Yeah, so as I say, it's Jess Autumn. She's an illustrator, artist, arts facilitator, and events producer. So it's actually Zine Fest she started Zine Fest, sorry, because she lived on protest sites and squats, and zines were part of the culture of sharing information, and disseminating that information from the sites and things like that. So she kind of, yeah, she went to York Zine Fest, and it's where she was first inspired to try and do something similar in Kendal. So the first Zine Fest was in Kendal quite a few years back. And I don't know individuals' names, or can't remember individuals' names, but a lot of these sort of, you know, just, you know, DIY events, you know, everyone just chipped in to make them work, and different artists and people involved and zine makers, you know, would all help to get it organized. But Jess was the main organizer, so, you know, securing the venue, making sure that, you know, she got all the sign-ups and doing all of that organizing.
And how long has it been at Tullie?
So, well, after Kendal, it was at Start Studios. So that's a small art studio, shared art studio in Carlisle. I think it's shared by 3 or 4 artists still. And it was fantastic, but it's quite a small space, and it's not wheelchair accessible. So Jess came to Tullie to see if we would be a venue, first of all. And we just had a chat about how, you know, we could bring it to Tullie, what we could help Jess to do, and how we could build on it and things like that. So it, you know, most basically Jess's experiences being an artist herself, and a lot of emerging artists wanting to get their work out, is spending a lot to pay for a market stall, and sometimes not making anywhere near that fee back. So we just kind of tried to make it as accessible as possible, and we were really reducing that stall fee, and just to cover a little bit of Jess's time basically. And she was just really relieved because I could help with a lot of that workload and the organising, the physical setup. You know, obviously Tullie has the space, I've got people I can call on, and we can help with the promotion, and we can call in, you know, sort of different you know, people that we're working with at the minute. So the first Zine Fest at Tullie was this April, and it was fantastic. There was, yeah, just a room full, the function room was full of stall holders, super diverse and, you know, really interesting things. People were selling their zines, but also prints, stickers, badges, things at loads of different price points. And we also had two fab artists, so Marissa Crane and Miles Dyson also delivered zine workshops to get people participating on the day.
So
And
will there be workshops and participation this time round?
Yeah, so we're not able to utilize some of one of the spaces that we used last time. So what we're doing is we're using the welcome space. So for the actual Zine Fest itself, we're using our welcome space, which is our free spaces. We're also using our City Hall studio, which is a room above the shop. So it will have that presence as soon as people are coming in. You know, you won't be able to avoid Zine Fest. You'll be in Zine Fest if you want to go to the cafe. We've got a really great colour exhibition at the moment, which is just so much for inspiration. So what we're going to do is have a big sort of zine making table and facilitator inside the colour exhibition, so that people can make zines all day long if they want to, and with some prompts and things like that about what to, you know, what people might want to explore or take inspiration from. So yeah, it's just something that we just really, you know, Jess, it's completely produced by Jess, and for her love of it, and, you know, and breaking down those barriers to people getting exposure for their work, making a bit of money, sharing their work with other people, and just building connection really. But she's got new ventures, and she's got new things that she's doing. She's opened up a stall in the Carlisle Market Hall called the Mushroom, where she's selling lots of beautiful things, and she's moving on to different projects. So Jess has actually kind of done all of the grassroots kind of groundwork, getting it up and running and established, and, you know, people know about it. And people expect it to happen every year now, and she's kind of handed it over to Tullie and our young producer group to take on. So hopefully sort of the future of Zine Fest will be the young producer group putting their spin on it and taking ownership of it as well.
So, and is the intention for it to continue to be twice a year, or do you have plans?
That seems manageable. Yeah, certainly for us, and, you know, the kind of the space that we have and things like that. I think that probably yeah. So there was, as I say, there's one in the spring, and there's going to be one next week. So it feels kind of nice. Maybe, I don't know, maybe be ambitious and throw a summer Zine Fest in there as well, with a little bit of a different vibe. But yeah, the whole point of it is to, you know, just be a nice space to come to, and, you know, it to be an event in itself to come and enjoy. But there's loads of different similar events popping up like this as well, like night markets and things like that, and music venues, and some really nice things that are happening. So yeah,
we shall look
good
forward
thing.
to following the development of Zine Fest specifically, and other associated activities. So the details there on the screen. A week on Saturday, 11 till 4, free entry, and there's details on the Tullie website as well. Thank you very much indeed, Lynn.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening.
And yes, hope to get along to that. Phil Hewitson says it's a great book. Such lots of creativity on display.
I saw that Phil was on the call actually, and I should mention that Phil has been a stall holder and has supported probably all of the Zine Fests, including Kendall.
Do you want to add a comment, Phil?
Yeah, I've done my best to get along to all the events. It's just great what Jess and the team do, and just to give a platform for predominantly young artists to show their like little comic books and their little zines. It's great. Keep it going.
Excellent. Right, we are going to move on to Dave Cryer, who is going to tell us about My Name is Eden. Dave, just introduce yourself. You are a writer, among many other things.
Yeah, many other things. So teacher of English and drama years ago, and then a freelancer around schools running creative writing workshops. I still do that as well. And then worked for Theatre by the Lake, running the education stuff down there, and then CACN Museum. And sort of now concentrating on my writing and funding my way through it by doing little bits of supply teaching. So after this call, I'm heading off to Cockermouth School this afternoon to do some English. So it's been a busy week. Yeah, and at the moment, one of the things that I'm heavily involved in is Penrith Writers, and we are signed kind of, yeah, Phil's putting a thumbs up there. I notice you're on the call, Phil. So we've done some work with Phil fairly recently, done some open mic sessions that we've joined in together. We've got plans for the future for that. Anyhow, Penrith Writers joined in with a group of Penrith-based or nearby-based arts I think encouragers and engagers. So back in August, we came up with sort of a long-term plan, which is sort of dream child of Mike at Penrith Players, and so long-term. What Mike is looking for is a community performance in April 2027, and then we spotted some funding which came up from English Heritage, and decided at the last minute to apply for the funding and sort of shoehorn what the English Heritage were after into this long-term project for Penrith and sort of wider Cumbria and the Eden Valley, which we got the money. So we've split it into two phases. Phase one is what I'm talking about today, which is a call out for local writers, other artists as well, please, because long term we do want to engage with all types of artists for the April 2026 to 2027 part of the project. But for this first phase, we had to not comply, but we had to sort of pitch it towards writing outcomes and engaging writers, mainly because the funding from English Heritage, they'd already dished out quite a lot of money as part of their funding to other artists, to fine artists, and basically they didn't have anything that was writing based. So we reworked ours and made it into a writing based project. So the call out is on now, and we're looking for anyone that feels that they can run a writing workshop in or around Penrith, and it doesn't matter how far away you are from Penrith, but the writing workshop will need to take place January, February, or early March, and it will need to engage people with either thinking about or actually visiting the 4 free-to-enter English Heritage sites which are around Penrith. Penrith Castle being the main one. King Arthur's Round Table and Maybury Henge out to the south, out on the A6. Sort of lesser visited sites, but some of you will know those sites. And the Countess Pillar, which is probably the least known of the 4 sites that we're hoping to engage the writers with. So the Countess Pillar, if you don't know it, is attached to, not attached to, it's the stories are attached to Broome Castle, and it kind of sits by the A66, and most people drive past it and think, what's that? And it's quite hard to access. But those 4 properties should be the focus of the workshop. The funding that we've got will probably fund around 20 hours of workshops. We don't know as yet how many workshops, because it depends who pitches in and what they pitch in for. I don't know if my copy of the post is kind of jumping around a bit on my screen, and I hope it's not jumping around on other people's screens. But I hope you can read most of what's on there, or I can send you a copy of it afterwards.
We can maybe stop the screen share, and if we can pop your email in the chat, then people can get in touch with you.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, between 2 and 4 hours for a workshop idea. We have funding to fund at sort of initial level. So people who haven't run a workshop before or have less than 5 years experience. We'd like those people to pitch in, as well as people who have a medium amount of experience and a lot of experience in delivering these kind of workshops. So we hope we've got the correct fee applying to those people who are wanting to run a workshop. So we're funding the actual workshop time. We're funding preparation time as well, because we feel that that is important. We're funding any expenses that would be incurred, like travel expenses and any materials that people might want to have as part of the workshop. The workshop can be directed towards adults or children. So if you've worked with specific groups of adults, or you've worked in schools, we'll be interested to hear from anyone that's done that kind of work. The outcome from the workshop will be part of a sort of interim work in progress community performance, which will take place. We've already got one date booked in February, but we're going to book in another date sort of mid-March, just to show off what people have been doing in the workshops.
Where would those take place, Dave?
So Penrith Players, we've got various dates where either the bar is free for a smaller, which up to 40 people in the bar. Obviously the auditorium can hold more people, and we've also got the funding to pay for venue hire as well. So so for instance, Penrith Library they are pitching in, and we can use their spaces for free. But other places like a village hall, say you wanted to run a workshop in a village hall, then we would approach the village hall and work out a date that works for both the writer and the village hall, and we have the funding to support paying the correct hire rate for the village hall. Okay. There may be other venues that we use, like if it's a small workshop, it might take place at Evans. So Eden Valley Arts Network in Penrith, they've got a small space that we can use. So it depends on the nature of the workshop and the size of the workshop. It's February and January that these are likely to take place. So something that takes people onto one of those sites would be encouraged as well. But obviously, we've got a weather factor to consider when that's happening. I'll stop talking and see if there's any questions.
I was going to say, if people have any questions for Dave, do show your hand. Dave, what's the next stage beyond this series of workshops and sort of interim performances that you talked about?
The next stage is really uncertain at the moment. So Penrith Town Council have been coming to some of the meetings and talking about getting some funding for us, but that funding's not appeared yet. So hopefully once this part of the project gets going and they see what we can do with what is effectively quite a small amount of money, they will then have the faith to put some money in for part 2 of the project. But what we're hoping is that the success of this first part of the project will leverage us some other funding, because we can say to funders, look, we've done this with this money, and this is what we've produced, and this is what we want to do next. And these are the artists that we've worked with, and these are the artists that we didn't work with because there wasn't enough money to go around, and we'd like to work with these as well. So hopefully it's a case of looking for more funding in the future for that beyond April 26.
Couple of questions in chat. Lindsay Tullie asks if there's something that could be shared around on Instagram. Certainly, yes. We CACN will put this opportunity on the website and mention in newsletters and stuff like that, and with our socials. Pete Hunter says, could an artist pitch a workshop and then Dave suggest a venue, or do you have to suggest the venue is as part of your pitch?
Both will work. Yeah, if an artist doesn't have an idea for a venue, then we will find a venue. And yeah, we've got quite a lot of flexibility with both Penrith Library and the Playhouse in Penrith, as well as other venues that I've already mentioned, like Evan. So I noticed that someone mentioned Katie Hale as well. I've already been on to the writers subgroup of CACN, and I'm hoping that Katie will have the time to pitch in. Yeah, there's a few people that, because we've sort of put the call out last Sunday. There are a few people that have not pitched in yet, but have asked for further details. So the further details I will send out. Sorry, I didn't say that part. If you email me, it's on the poster. If you email me, I will send out further details, which includes what the stipulations that the English Heritage and National Lottery have put the funding up. They have certain boxes that need to be ticked that would be useful.
Okay. So if you can send us those details, we can put a sort of edited version on the CACN site and
oh well, yeah.
Splendid. Very best of luck with that, and we shall keep an eye on the progress of that and doubtless come back to you further down the line. I'm just going to go to Kate Parry, CACN, to talk about another opportunity of a slightly different nature. Tell us about Pivot, Kate.
Yes, Pivot is a programme that is designed to refresh your ambition and direction. It's funded by Westmoreland and Furness Council and Cumberland Council. It's designed for individual creative practitioners and people who are running very small cultural and creative and heritage organisations. It's a sort of 6-month programme that begins with an initial coaching session where we establish what your kind of development needs are as a person and as a little organisation. We will then design a programme that responds to those needs before we wrap up the programme with another coaching session per person to understand the progress that people have made. The coaches will be Tom Spate and Kate Brundrett, who is on this call. Hello, Kate. And the people delivering the workshops and training sessions are yet to be decided, because we will bring those in according to what the need is. Pivot the applications close on Monday at 5 p.m. So if you know anybody, or this is you, that you want to share it with, please do that. You'll find the details on our website. Iona or Stuart, could you possibly put the link from the website into chat? Yeah, Kate Giggle, if she's still on the call, I've dropped you a note in chat about this. If you could possibly have a look. But yes, please do have a look, apply, and we will be in touch with applicants around the end of this month, having considered how many we can accommodate with the money available. So yeah, the programme runs for 6 months from the end of this month. The other thing to mention is the How to Talk to Tiny People training that's part of the See It to Be It programme. That is our very first foray into primary schools. One of the aims of this programme was to be able to pay creative practitioners to be able to go into primary schools as part of the Centre for Leadership's Primary Business Partnership, which is where people from a range of different careers run little career sessions in schools talking about their career journey. We have got 50 people signed up for the 2 training sessions next week. So that just shows the enthusiasm for this, which is fantastic. But because of that, we've extended the length of the sessions from 1 hour to an hour and a half. Just so the bulk of the work will be done in the first hour, but we've added half an hour so that we can answer any questions that people might have, given how many people there are attending. So yeah, just look out for that. You won't miss out if you can't make the second half hour, but we just wanted to give ourselves plenty of time to chat.
Lovely. And
two
thank you.
priorities. Yeah.
Having segued nicely into the See It to Be It area, which for people who don't know is an extended project, place partnership project, which is looking at addressing and supporting and developing opportunities for young people to sustain careers in the cultural sector. And as part of that, we are running a little poll, which Iona, I think, is just about to activate, for us to see what the age profile is of people attending the Friday calls. So if you wouldn't mind sticking your answers on there, we'll probably keep running these till about the end of November, and then we'll have a baseline and come back a bit further down the line, and hopefully there are some more younger people taking part as we progress with the project and raise awareness of that. Splendid. Thank you very much, people.
Chris, sorry to
yes.
interrupt you. I wondered if just for like 30 seconds, Stuart could talk about his success with
I just
Meat
about
Raffle.
to come on to that.
Sorry.
It's on my agenda. Yes, those of us who were present last week were aware of the splendid film that Stuart has made, Meat Raffle, which you can view on Channel 4 now. But since then, Stuart, tell us what's been happening.
Guys, I'm blushing. No, thanks very much. Yeah, so for those who weren't here last week, I am the new trainee producer with CACN, but I'm also a filmmaker. I'm a writer-director, and I made a film earlier this year with some funding from the British Film Institute called Meat Raffle, which is a black comedy set in Carlisle in the 90s. And yeah, we've been doing the film festival rounds with it over the last few weeks, and we had some lovely news on Saturday at the Tees Valley Film Festival over in Stockton, and we won Best Comedy there, so that was nice. And the award was presented by none other than Johnny Vegas, so that was very lovely. Got to have a nice chat with him afterwards, and he gave me some sort of esoteric advice about me being a salmon swimming upstream, trying to get to the spawning ground or whatever. So yeah, he's a very nice guy. And then I had the opportunity to go on Decaboot on ITV to talk about the win and the film as well this week. So it's been a good week for the film, yeah.
This is what happens when you get engaged with CACN. Well done, Stuart. We're really proud of you, and I look forward to you spawning. And I think we shall draw this to a close because it is 10:30, and Tom has established a firm precedent of not overrunning. So lovely to see you all. Thanks very much for joining us. Tom will be back in the big chair next week. I have no idea what he's got planned, but I'm sure it will be interesting. So have lovely cultural weeks, everybody, and relish how much it's doing benefit to your health. Thanks very much.
Cheerio, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, there you
Bye-bye.
go. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Really